All right, thanks everyone for jumping on. This is the BNB Investing Supergroup of REI USA, and it's our first meeting here of the year. And wanted to give you guys a quick update. We are going to start making shorter versions of the monthly webinar. We're going to kind of limit it to 30 minutes going forward instead of the full hour. We have a lot of statistics that show us kind of the average amount of folks that are viewing the recordings of the webinars, and we're going to kind of keep it a little bit more concise and to the point, and knowing that folks are kind of limited on time. And so we've had over last year, we have a lot of people that rewatched our recordings of the webinars, as these guys are recorded every time that we have them, and then they're put out on the REI USA platform. And so if you want to go back and kind of review some of the previous meetings, you can do that as well. And, today we're going to cover one of my favorite topics. Most of the time we kind of don't go into too much detail, but it's really what got Diamond Edge started in the space as far as short-term rentals go. And for those of you that don't know, so Rich Munroe with Diamond Edge short-term rentals, we've been specifically focused on doing Airbnbs and short-term rentals for the past 5 years now. And this is kind of our core focus. We do have a business where we do rehabs and purchase properties and do some wholesaling here and there, but our core focus in our business is short-term rentals. So we've got about 52 listings today, and we've expanded last year down into the Tampa, Florida market. And we've also got properties that we're expanding up into the North Georgia mountains. So we're kind of focused on continuing to grow. And what we're going to cover today is basically, as most of you know, the big success of this, or the ability to do this, is based on the sharing economy of Airbnb and its platform, and the flexibility to be able to put your property out on there. Right now it's in big demand, so they're looking for a lot more hosts. Even during the COVID pandemic, we've actually seen more occupancy than we have. And we continue to still have a lot of large investors that are coming into the space and doing multiple units. So kind of a going theme right now are larger multi-unit buildings and doing 400, 500, 600 units that are specific to short-term rentals. And so this is something not only that you can do as an investor, but a lot of the larger players in the marketplace are raising hundreds of millions of dollars to focus on this opportunity. And so it's definitely something that's really, from my perspective, kind of in growth mode and in the beginning. Much like Zillow and Open Door and some of those other folks that are building traditional rental portfolios, there's also investors that are building large Airbnb rental portfolios. This is just one example of that, where they've raised around 1.5 billion to purchase up to 5,000 homes that are specific to doing short-term rentals with it. And so this is something that is definitely a good opportunity as an investor for being able to kind of drive that monthly net cash flow. And so, like I said, we've done short-term rentals and mostly started out in the city of Atlanta. And we're going to just talk a little bit about our history and kind of how we got to where we're at. We've obviously, in the beginning, we had a lot of traditional rental portfolios, but with the Airbnb platform and with the market in Atlanta, we've kind of grown with our business. And, we've gone to Tampa, St. Pete. Diamond Edge itself has actually outperformed the market as far as the average nightly rate goes on all of our properties. And so we try to run this like a business. And really, in a lot of our trainings, we try to kind of bring that point home. We're not out here just to try to perform like the market. So when we do our market analysis, those are usually going to be very conservative numbers. We look to basically exceed what those projections are going to be from a profitability standpoint. So everything we do in our operation is kind of catered and tuned around exceeding what the market's doing. And so that's the average nightly rate across all of our properties. The occupancy rate is obviously very aggressive as well. And so that's across not only our Atlanta properties, but also our Tampa market. And so as you can tell, we're basically very consistently kind of outbeating what the market's doing. Obviously a lot of the marketplace and a lot of the listings are individual homeowners or individual hosts that may not be doing it as a running it as a business like we are with kind of the main objective. In some cases, they may not have the full calendar available. Against the market. And so rental arbitrage, what is that? Master leases, right? So a lot of you folks might have been already doing, we're looking at doing short-term rentals or Airbnb. Master lease and rental arbitrage is one way to get into this very quickly and basically be able to take control of multiple properties and for the purpose of setting it up as a short-term rental or as an Airbnb. And so this statistically kind of shows some of the states that are kind of the highest average rental arbitrage potential in terms of the spread. And so that's looking at what your cost is to rent the property as a lease versus what you can generate as short-term rental revenue. And obviously Florida is one of the larger ones as well. So that difference or that delta between what you can rent something for and what you can command as a short-term rental revenue is around 2,000. Tennessee is a great market as well, 2,600, and so on. So this kind of just gives you, in Hawaii, obviously, with a lot of the beach resort towns is in the 3,000 range. And so basically this gives you the ability to go after this strategy and be able to kind of, after you've set up the property, got it up and running as a listing and negotiated your master lease, you're basically able to kind of have that net cash flow on a monthly basis per unit. This is another stat that kind of looks at the highest number of counties that have the highest arbitrage potential. And obviously Florida is up there, California, and then Georgia is there kind of as the fourth, and then so on. And obviously, Georgia's probably a little bit skewed. We've probably got the highest number of counties in the nation just based on how many different counties we have compared to some of the other states. So it's a little bit of an advantage there, but that statistic kind of gives you a sense for that. So I'm just going to show you some examples of when we first started doing rental arbitrage and master leases a little over 5 years ago now. This was the first building that we did. It's a condo building. It's in Midtown Atlanta. It's directly across the street from City Winery, for those of you that are familiar with the Atlanta area, near Pont City Market. So this was really our first master lease that we did. And these are kind of all 1-bedroom lofts and obviously walkable to a lot of different areas, really good location. And so definitely, a good starting point for short-term rental. Now, we went into this along with the landlord owner, knowing that this place had a condo association, right? And so it's probably ironic that this was our very first one because you kind of learn from that process. And so I really recommend to folks that are doing this strategy, just in general, right? If you're even doing acquisitions, stay away from properties that have condo associations or homeowners associations. Because obviously when we first started and we signed the lease, the landlord was fine with our strategy doing short-term rentals. All of our leases had that spelled out in the lease that the landlord approves of us doing that. It's not a place that we're going to be living in ourselves. And then so we went into this understanding that the condo association really didn't prohibit short-term rentals. But obviously, at some point in time in the future, they have the right or the ability to change the rules. And that's exactly what happened here. So we were probably 3 or 4 months into doing this, and we got a letter, or the landlord got a letter from the condo association saying that we're no longer allowed to do short-term rentals in the building. And so we basically have to shut that unit down, get all the furniture moved over to another location, and basically, start all over at a different location, which we did. And again, I think a lot of times you can use those as learning experiences that allow you to basically, learn from that. So today, strategically, I'm not going to do any master leases, even if the landlord is open to it, where they have a homeowners association or condo association attached to it. So this yellow house is actually in Virginia Highlands, not too far from that same location near Ponce City Market. It's kind of a popular area that's in Midtown Atlanta, walkable to a lot of the different areas. And when you hear master lease and rental arbitrage, there's a lot of folks that are doing it in large apartment complexes, and most of the time without the knowledge of the landlord, right? Which is probably kind of a short-lived opportunity and not something that is long-term planning. So most of the time that we do this, and strategically, I would recommend that you go after some of the mid-sized properties. There's plenty of other mid-sized multi-unit buildings that you can go after. This is a quadplex, and so it's got 4 separate one-bedroom apartments. And we basically started with one unit. The door there to the left is one unit. Then there's another door to the right for the upstairs unit. And then there's a few entrances in the back of the property for the other 2 units. And what you'll find that happens once you've got the landlord comfortable with the concept and all the benefits, honestly, that short-term rentals give over the long-term rental strategy. You would think that there's more wear and tear because you've got more people coming and going. But honestly, it typically ends up being the opposite of that because you have the property being professionally cleaned in between each stay, as well as being inspected. So we're going to correct any damage or property damage that happens in between each guest stay and make sure that property stays in great shape. And so the landlord can kind of definitely benefit from that difference. As a lot of you that are already probably doing traditional rentals know that after a year or 2 of a traditional long-term lease, you've got to kind of rehab that property again. So that really doesn't exist with short-term rentals. And so as a landlord owner, that's one huge benefit. There's another one that, we take care of a lot of the lower level maintenance, like if the toilet clogs or the AC goes out, we're going to have our handyman go out there and have an immediate response, again, with the kind of 5-star review in mind. And so the landlord doesn't have a lot of that heavy lifting to do like they do with their other tenants. And so in this example, and most of pretty much all of our rental arbitrages that we've done, what typically ends up happening is the landlord kind of sees all these huge benefits, firsthand with the first unit. And then so we very quickly went from, okay, well, Rich, you guys are doing great. We have a tenant that's moving out in 2 months. Was that something you'd like to, add into the program? And of course, we say yes. We run our analysis, make sure everything looks good. And so we ended up with probably doing 3 units in that building before it was all said and done as a quadplex. Here's another example in the same area. This is a 6-unit, all 1 bedroom, 1 baths. And the owner of this building actually purchased the building with one of the units already being up and running as an Airbnb, as a short-term rental. And she was kind of pulling her hair out about it, right? So she's more of a property manager, familiar with the long-term leases and long-term tenants. And she was kind of pulling her hair out about the short-term rental strategy. So she was very familiar with what we were offering. And honestly, she was kind of glad to hand that over to us. And the first unit was actually mostly furnished when we did it. And the same thing here, we ended up going from 1 unit to 4 units in that building over a period of maybe 3 to 4 months. All right. And then that building said, okay, it's going great over there. Let's try a few over in this one. This is on Barnett Street. This is a much nicer 8-unit building. And this one has actually a couple of 2-bedrooms in it. So that patio on the left is a 2-bedroom. The ones in the middle are 1-bedrooms. And so we ended up, same process. We started out with a 2-bedroom. After a few months, we kind of waited till all the other leases were expiring and started converting, each property over into the short-term rental model. And so, historically, a lot of people that start out with doing master leases and rental arbitrage, yes, it's a numbers game in the beginning. You got to make a lot of phone calls. You got to go see a lot of properties. You got to talk to a lot of landlords. But I'm here to tell you, once you kind of get into those relationships and start out, you're definitely going to be in a good spot to be able to multiply quickly and turn those units from 1 to 10, over a short period of time. And so fast forward to today, this is another building. It's literally right across the street from that Barnett Street building. And it was a kind of a full gut rehab in terms of the property getting, basically redone. They kept the shell of the building. There's retail space on the lower level, and then they have 27 one-bedroom units, basically, throughout the building. And so we started with 4 units in this building just before COVID started, and we today have 15 units. And again, it goes back to kind of the same concept, right? As far as the landlord seeing the benefit, the landlord having issues with people paying them on their rent and causing problems and having to rehab the property again. It's got a really nice rooftop common area, so that's a good sell on short-term rentals. Nice view of the skyline of Atlanta. And so we've really done well at that location. And just to kind of give you some of the numbers on how that looks. So this is one of the listings that we have. Average is about $135 a night, and it's usually a little bit higher than that on the weekends. But as an average, so we look at 1 month here as an example. So we did about, and this is probably one of the lower months, $3,300 in gross revenue. The rent on that property is around, I think that particular unit's around $1,600 a month. And so if our expenses are $1,600, call it another $400 for utilities and supplies and incidentals and other such. So you're still kind of $1,600 minus the $3,300. So you're definitely, in that good profitability on a monthly basis, right? And so you're clearing between $1,500 to $1,700 a month as a net cash flow, and that's just on one unit. Here's another month, the same unit, 90% occupied, average daily rate $166, and revenue at $3,800. And so one of the things that we try to focus on, like I mentioned early on, when you start these listings in the beginning, and I know a lot of you are already doing short-term rentals can kind of relate to this. Your first 30, 60, 90 days is going to be, your objective is getting reviews. And so you're constantly trying to improve the listing so that the next person that books is basically going to hopefully command a higher rate or a higher premium on the rent. And so one example of that is not only can you do rental arbitrage with the 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units, you can also deal with larger homes. And so this is a 4-bedroom home that we did. Again, nothing special. Obviously, it's a very nice home, a little bit higher end, a pool in the backyard, outdoor kitchen, movie room. So a really nice house. And so we did, starting out in the market in Lawrenceville, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. It's about 45 minutes east. So not close and walkable to anything, but obviously, like you can tell, nice property. So we started out the market in that place, in that neighborhood. So any other homes in that area that are doing short-term rentals when we first started this was averaging about $350 a night. And so, we also started around that $350, $400 a night range. But again, our core objective was driving positive reviews, getting that 5-star average as a review, right? So if you can command that type of strategy and make sure that you maintain that 5-star review or close to it, folks that are booking your property will pay a premium for that. And so we ended up averaging over a year, we went from $450 a night and kind of after 12 months ended up being around $1,000 a night. And so even though the occupancy on this property was probably less than 50%, and this is one of the months as an example, we were still able to generate $1,000 as an average per night as the nightly rate, which gives you around $14,000 to $15,000 as an average month. We actually averaged probably $17,000 to $18,000 a month, for throughout the whole time once we got to that price level. But that's just to show you an example of how lucrative this can be when you start applying those strategies and looking at it from that perspective. So what I'd like to do now is show you guys a quick video of one of the Ponce City Market properties. I just recently did kind of a walking tour of it. And just to show you kind of what the layout of the property looks like as an option. And then so that you can kind of get a feel. So hopefully everybody can see my screen as a YouTube video. And I'm going to kind of mute it and then just kind of talk to it, right? So, like I told you, it's kind of in a good part of Atlanta. This is the 4th level. So we basically got all the units on that top level that we are doing short-term rentals with. And there's 2 different sizes. So I'm going to show you here real quick what the smaller one looks like. It's 650 square feet. And of course, you've got it crammed in. So you got your living room, dining room space in one room there. You've got everything that you need as far as appliances go. You've got your washer and dryer. You've got your fridge, albeit it's a mini fridge, and a microwave and a stove and a dishwasher. Coffee makers, we usually try to do Keurigs now, but starting out, you can definitely get away with doing just regular coffee pots, not really a requirement. All the basic necessities in the kitchen, just to kind of make sure that the folks that are coming in have what they need if they want to cook a meal, down to the pots and pans and everything, to make sure you have that available. Toaster. And then, of course, on the washer and dryer, we usually like to make sure that we don't let them do our towels and linens. They're usually white, and they usually mess them up. It just takes throwing a colored item in there to screw up the whole load. And so a lot of our longer term stays, we'll come and swap out the linens and towels for that reason. We also let them know where the garbage bins are located for the property. As a side note as well, just, when you're first checking in somewhere, just so you kind of know what those options are. We typically do a smart TV that doesn't rely on us doing a cable. We usually do what we call a free bottle of wine, which technically isn't free because we tack it onto the cleaning fee. So the guest is not expecting that. And we usually do a couple bottles of water. We try to be minimalized so that the guests that come in, they can kind of backfill what they need to as far as purchasing their own items. And obviously the towels, you got to have your essentials in there for broom, ironing board, iron, a couple extra blankets if they need it. And then you got the queen size bedroom back here. We always try to be consistent with the queen bed. We always like to do a little thing on the side so they can have somewhere to plug in their phones to recharge them, something that's easily accessible so they're not scrambling behind the bed to get to the plug. And then we like to do kind of these travel size shampoos and soaps. It just keeps it convenient, for the guests to have access. It's pretty common. Then we usually want to do like a hair dryer, of course, in each of the units, just as a standard default. And then, so this also has its own little private patio outside, which is cool. And so they have their own private space out there. And so even though it's 650 square feet, it's a nice, comfortable layout for the guest. And then we're going to go and take a quick look at the larger unit, just so you can kind of see the comparison. And so on the smaller unit, and of course we have these Yale electronic locks, they synchronize with the listing, so that code changes every time a guest comes and goes, just from a security standpoint. We have our supply closet here. So all of our supplies are in one area on each level, so that when the cleaning staff comes in to do their turn, they have access to all the supplies there. We have a laundry service that comes out. We don't want the cleaners doing laundry inside the units, so laundry service comes and picks up the dirties, brings back the clean within a day or two, and then that way they clean the next one. So this is the larger unit. It's 850 square feet. And just for point of reference, the smaller unit is about $1,400 a month in rent, and generates around $2,800 to $3,000 in rental revenue. This larger unit here is about $1,600 a month in rent, and we generate around $3,800 to $4,200 depending on the month. And we actually put a queen sleepless sofa there. That's Fellini's Pizza there across the street on Ponce de Leon, for those of you familiar with Atlanta. So it's you can literally walk across the street to go to dinner. So that's a queen sleepless sofa there. So this unit actually sleeps 4 people. As you can tell, it's a little bit larger. And so you can actually accommodate sleeping more folks. There's our minute noise detection device, which is always good to have. They've had some huge improvements this year where you can actually detect the number of people that are that have devices in the unit, so that it pings you if it goes over a certain amount. Smart TV in the bedroom, queen size bed again. We usually like to try to do, when we can, TVs in the bedroom. It's not a mandatory thing, but it's always good to have. And then in this unit, we've got the washer and dryer, as you can tell, in the bathroom there. So, and then all kind of the same amenities that we would provide as a standard rule in that unit as well. And then, again, all the same stuff there. So I just wanted to show you guys, we usually do these kind of walking tours in person. And I thought it would be good to kind of show you just an example of one of our locations. And while we're still on the screen, there's another location that we have near Piedmont Park that we've started a few months ago. And I can kind of show you what that one looks like as well, while we're at it. And so it's near Piedmont Park, and it's near the Fox. And so it's a quadplex. Again, we usually try to have stuff that's been recently renovated or rehabbed. And so these are all 1-bedroom, 1-baths, various sizes. They each, 2 of them actually have private patios. One of the big things, especially in all the major cities, you want to negotiate in your lease is to make sure you've got reserved parking, right? So when your guests are booking, they don't have the headache of trying to do street parking. They've got a reserved spot when they check in. And if you don't have that as a part of your master lease, then that's a big part of what people look for, is to make sure that you have parking that you can provide to them. And so this is an upstairs unit, and we basically have, again, we try to stage these properties with a little bit higher quality than just regular furniture that would be commonplace. So we try to have unique items in there. My wife Marva basically does all of our staging, so she does a great job of having, even that 27-unit building, a lot of those units have their own character, and they're not like looking like a hotel where they're all the same cookie cutter. And so she works on doing that on purpose. She likes to have like different characters and different themes going for each unit. Same thing here, obviously all the same type of supplies, fully equipped kitchen for the guests that are coming in. We found that during COVID, folks are using the kitchen a lot more and staying in, obviously. And so that's getting used a lot more than usual. Again, stackable washer and dryer in the bedroom. We've got another TV here in the bedroom as well. And then we started doing these little Google Dot things, which is another option. We don't want to encourage a lot of loud noise, but those are just a good option to have if they want to listen to some music and have like a speaker sound on it. There's a sign again, warning the guests not to wash the linens. And as well, for this particular property, showing them where that stuff is located. All right, so I'm going to show you one more before we jump back into the presentation. And these are some units we've actually just started this past week. We're actually going live towards the end of this week. They're in a similar location, actually near closer into 5 Points. And so this is a common area. We're actually going to we've got the landlord putting a picnic table out here. And we just put those chairs by the fire pit. We just had those delivered the other day. There's a little common and grassy area. And this is a 22-unit building. It's got, 10 units on that side of all 1-bedrooms. And then on the left side, it's got 12 units of 2-bedrooms. And so we're actually starting this week with 8 units of the 22. And again, kind of the end game here is we've got the schedule for when the other long-term tenants expire. And so ultimately over the next 6 to 8 months, we're going to be converting over to basically have those be short-term rentals as well as we get the long-term tenants out of there. As a lot of you know, so again, very similar, it's been recently upgraded. We like to make sure that we're competitive with our listings. And so we're tending to, err along that side. Before we go live, we like to make sure that we're testing everything, right? All the appliances work, that the hot water works. There's nothing worse than having the first guest check in and you determine that the hot water heater wasn't turned on properly, and they're in a rush to get to a meeting or somewhere, and the hot water is not coming on. So you want to make sure you check through your checklist and confirm that all those issues are resolved. We had some mattresses delivered there. Now this property did not have a common area supply closet. However, each bedroom has 2 large closets, so we're basically securing one of the 2 in each bedroom as our supply closet for the cleaning service and for our other supplies. And so with the 2 bedrooms, we're actually going to be doing that on 2 closets because you still have that other closet in each of the bedrooms for the guests. So it works out. We get these combo locks put on there so the guest doesn't have access during their stay. You don't want them raiding the supplies. And then, so that's strategically something that we do pretty consistently. Here's the bathroom. And then we're also going to get stackable washer and dryers put in as well. Again, just have that as an option. Most of you know that it's not used 100% of the time because you've got people staying there 3 to 5 days as average. Always a good thing, have your backup lockbox. Even those electronic locks, they work most of the time. But you do want to have as a default is put that one of the keys in that lockbox so that if the battery goes dead or something goes wrong with that electronic lock, somebody's trying to check in the middle of the night, you can definitely still get them in with that lockbox and that key. And so that's pretty much it. Again, just wanted to give you guys kind of a brief visual of a few of our properties, and then show you kind of what the prospects are here, because essentially you can do this in any city, any state for the most part, as an opportunity. And these are some of our Tampa properties, just to show you some of the math. Average nightly rate, this is 3-bedroom. Even at 65% occupancy, we're at $3,400 in revenue. This is a 4-bedroom, $4,600 at 70% occupancy. Here's another 4-bedroom. This is in South Tampa, and we're doing about $5,800 in revenue during the hot months, and so on. So these are when we look at strategically going after this opportunities, rental arbitrage and master leases, you can definitely look at renting 3 and 4 and 5 and 6-bedroom houses. This is a house we have in Beaufort, northern suburbs of Atlanta. It's a 5-bedroom. And so we're averaging $329 a night, 71% occupancy with $5,700 in gross revenue. So another month was even at 50% occupancy, we're still at $4,700. And so to rent that house as a market rent on a 5-bedroom house in Beaufort, you're probably around $2,200 as a lease amount. And so you can tell with these revenue numbers, you're still definitely going to be netting a favorable amount over what your expenses are. Here's another one in Beaufort. And so we've done quite well. This is one in northwest Atlanta, and it's a 4-bedroom house. And so we did $6,200, 81% occupancy in that month. And that 4-bedroom house probably rents for $1,600 as a market rent. This is another example. And then, so similar to the Lawrenceville house, we have other properties that are a little bit higher end. This one has a swimming pool. It's on a 15-acre horse farm. And so we just started that one towards the end of the summer. And so we're averaging between 12 to 15,000 a month on that one as well. So again, just to point out, rental arbitrage is definitely a good way to go. I know a lot of you are doing rehabbing and doing the burn method. And then obviously as a strategy as well, we do have some of our inventory that we own the property. And so strategically, you can have a diverse portfolio and have a mixture of properties that you own, and then a mixture of properties that you do rental arbitrage or master leases with. And so we also, as you probably know, we also do management, right? So we have management services for other investors where we basically manage the property for those investors, and typically charge a 20 to 25% management fee to do that. And so that's another revenue stream. As you learn this business, you can definitely create your own management for short-term rental management, and that's definitely another good option and another kind of line of revenue for you to do. So that kind of concludes where we are today on the master lease rental arbitrage strategy. Here's my contact information. As you guys are going through and doing your strategies and figuring out what market you want to go to, feel free to reach out. We can help with the market analysis. We also have a Facebook group where we put out a lot of different events. So Atlanta Short-Term Rental Investors is our Facebook group. And so one of the things we haven't touched on today, which is a whole nother session on its own, is the legislative environment and the rules and regulations around short-term rentals. And unfortunately, the city of Atlanta is adopting one that's very similar to some of the other major cities in the United States, where it's defaulting to primary resident plus one. And so one of the things that we did is we formed an association, a nonprofit called AMSTRA, Atlanta Metro Short-Term Rental Alliance. And we're basically between working closely with the city of Atlanta, the Airbnb policy team, as they work through the details of rolling out the new short-term rental alliance in Atlanta. So that's effective March 1st. And honestly, it's very non-investor friendly. And so a lot of the properties that a lot of us are managing in the city of Atlanta right now are up for questioning, depending on how it's going to be applied. They haven't worked out a lot of those details. And so I would encourage you to join or look up amstra.org. We've actually put in place a pretty strong board of 9 other board members that are listed on this website as well, if you go check it out. Most of them are 20 plus listings, whether they are managing properties or own or doing master lease strategy. And so we all have kind of interest aligned with wanting to have a seat at the table as the city of Atlanta kind of works through and make sure that we don't get hit hard with having the inability to do these short-term rentals in Atlanta going forward. So please join that group or take a look at it. And again, please reach out if you guys have any questions. And again, this is all these sessions are recorded, so feel free to go back and replay this or look at some of the other monthly BNB investing meetings we've been having. We're also planning a full day summit, I believe, that's coming up in a couple of months that's going to focus on how do you raise money for doing short-term rentals and what are some of those options. And so look forward to seeing everybody there. See you next month. It's the first Tuesday of every month that we do BNB investing, and hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you soon.